Guess what? Before gyms, before barbells, before anyone argued about knees over toes, humans were already squatting. To rest, to eat, to survive. It wasn't an exercise, it was life. And somehow, that simple motion, bending down and standing back up, became one of the most debated, feared, respected, and brutally effective movements in human history. From ancient warriors to circus strongmen to modern lifters putting over 1,000 pounds on their backs, today we're going deep into the evolution of the squat. This is Guess What?, where curiosity might just break parallel. Long before anyone said hit depth, humans were already living in a squat. Anthropological evidence shows that full squatting was, and still is, the natural resting position for humans. In many parts of the world today, people still squat to eat, work, and rest for extended periods. No chairs, no couches, just you and gravity. Ancient civilizations didn't document squats as an exercise the way we do today, but they absolutely trained the movement. In ancient Egypt, wall carvings show laborers lifting heavy stones from low positions, often in postures nearly identical to a squat or hinge hybrid. In ancient Greece, athletes trained with weighted implements like halteres. While these were primarily used for jumping and throwing, they also strengthened the legs through loaded movement patterns that closely resembled early squat mechanics. That being said, there is no evidence that the squat existed as a named, formalized lift in ancient Olympic competition. The Greeks valued explosive movement, like the clean and jerk, not controlled strength under a load. The squat was there, but it wasn't the star. It was just how you moved. For thousands of years, squatting remained functional, not formal. That changed in the 1800s. As the Industrial Revolution spread, strength began shifting from survival to spectacle. Enter the strongmen era. Performers like Eugen Sandow, often considered the father of modern bodybuilding, began turning strength into something you could display, measure, and train deliberately. But even then, no back squat yet. Instead, early lifters used movements like deep knee bends, bent press variations, loaded carries, odd object lifts. The idea of placing a barbell on your back and squatting down? That came later. And interestingly, it didn't come from athletes. It came from experimentation. The modern squat began taking shape in the early 20th century, and one man played a massive role: George Hackenschmidt. Yes, the same guy behind the hack squat. He popularized leg-focused strength movements and helped normalize bending the knees under load as a legitimate training method. But the true evolution came with the rise of the barbell. Adjustable barbells, developed in Europe in the late 1800s and early 1900s, allowed lifters to progressively load movements in a standardized way. At first, squats were weird. Lifters performed heel-elevated squats, partial squats, Zercher-style holds, and perhaps most bizarre, early Olympic lifters sometimes used a movement called the deep knee bend, essentially a squat, but often combined with other motions. Then came a key shift. People realized, if you put the bar on your back, you can lift way more weight. And just like that, the squat became dangerous and legendary. This is where things get serious. As powerlifting began to emerge in the mid-20th century, the squat became one of the big three lifts: squat, bench press, deadlift. And unlike Olympic lifting, there were no style points, just numbers. One of the most influential figures here was Bob Peoples, more famous for deadlifting, but part of a generation that trained brutally heavy compound movements in barns and garages. Then came the legends. Paul Anderson. A man so strong he reportedly performed partial squats with over 1,200 pounds. Yes, over half a ton. He trained with makeshift setups, barbells buried in the ground, lifting from the bottom up. Primitive, brutal, effective. Then came Tom Platz, and everything changed. Platz didn't just squat heavy, he squatted deep, painfully deep, hamstrings touching calves deep. He turned the squat from a strength test into an art form of suffering. High reps, full range, no mercy. And from that moment on, the debate began. Is depth necessary? Is heavier better? Are you even squatting if you're not hitting parallel? Unfortunately, as with all things involving humans, the squat became controversial. Now let's break down why the squat is so effective. At its core, the squat is a compound movement involving quadriceps, primary driver, glutes, hip extension powerhouse, adductors, stabilization and depth control, hamstrings, assist and stabilize, core, to prevent your spine from folding like a lawn chair. Mechanically, it's simple. You lower your center of mass, then stand back up. But under load, it becomes one of the most demanding movements in existence. Why? Because it requires mobility, ankles, hips, thoracic spine, stability, knees, hips, core, force production, legs generating power from a dead stop. And here's the brutal truth. The deeper you go, the more muscle you recruit. That's why full squats are so effective. More range of motion equals more work equals more adaptation. It's also why people hate them, because there's nowhere to hide. Fast forward to today, and the squat has become something almost superhuman. In powerlifting, we've seen lifters like Ray Williams, over 1,000 pounds raw squat, Andrei Malanichev, massive raw totals, Dan Bell, pushing the limits of equipped lifting. In equipped lifting, where suits provide assistance, squats have exceeded 1,300 pounds. That's a small car on your back. Meanwhile, in Olympic weightlifting, athletes perform squats as the foundation for the clean, the snatch, and lifters routinely front squat and back squat insane weights relative to body weight. The squat isn't just one lift anymore. It's an entire family. You've got back squat, the standard, front squat, more upright, quad dominant, hack squat, machine or barbell variation, Zercher squat, held in the elbows, pure suffering, goblet squat, beginner-friendly but effective, box squat, emphasizes control and posterior chain, split squats / Bulgarian squats, unilateral torture devices. Each one shifts, load, muscle emphasis, stability demands. But the core idea never changes. Sit down, stand up, under pressure. So why has the squat endured? Why do we keep coming back to it? Because it's primal. It's one of the most basic human movements, and when you load it, it becomes a test. Not just of strength, but of discipline, of pain tolerance, of will. There's a reason lifters say, you don't grow from squats, you survive them. Because every time you step under the bar, you're making a deal. You either stand back up, or you don't. From ancient humans resting in the dirt, to strongmen lifting impossible weight, to modern athletes chasing records that shouldn't exist, the squat has never really changed. We have. We've added steel, we've added numbers, we've added ego. But strip all that away, it's still just you and gravity. That's today's episode of Guess What? If you enjoyed walking carefully through history with me, hit subscribe, because next time, who knows what we'll uncover. Until then, stay curious, and remember, if it's not below parallel, history is judging you.